This morning, brothers and sisters, as we celebrate the feast of St. John Neumann, who was a bishop here in the United States in the early 1800s. He was Bishop of Philadelphia. We hear the church in its attempt at a liturgical pun. You may have missed it, because in the prayer, in the collect prayer for St. John Neumann, we hear that we are to have brotherly love. And of course, anybody who knows Philadelphia knows that it literally means brotherly love, right? Yes? Okay. Yeah. So we can all have a knee slapper laugh at the liturgical pun this morning, or not. But speaking of love, we hear of love in the first reading from the first letter of John. We hear that perfect love casts out fear, and if anybody has fear in them, it means that they are still afraid of punishment. And it says, one who fears is not yet perfect in love. We can also translate a little bit differently that one who fears is not yet perfected in love. You might say, well, Father Chris, what's the difference? Well, the difference is sometimes when we hear these words, one who fears is not yet perfect in love, we might think that the onus is on us. It's perfect love that casts out fear, right? Yes? Okay. Raise your hand if you're able to produce perfect love. Yeah, I don't see anybody raising their hand. Why not? Where does perfect love come from? God. Every good and perfect gift comes down from who? The Father of lights. Every good and perfect gift comes from the Father of lights. So perfect love comes from God. So one might really say that if we're afraid, it's because we haven't yet been perfected in God's love. That is, that we are still growing to accept God's love. And the good news is this: so long as we're aware of the fact that we're growing, we can ask God continually to perfect us in His love, to perfect us in the reception of His love, so that then, filled to overflowing, we can then give. Why is it that people don't give? Fear of not having enough. So when there is an overabundance, or even just faith in the perfect love of God, you don't have to necessarily feel all nice and good, but when there's faith in the perfect love of God, and one has experienced the perfect love of God, then there's no fear. One is secure. One is safe. And we could even say that this changes our idea about what it means for God to be our refuge and our strong fortress. It's not necessarily a defensive military place, but rather instead, it's a place of intimate security in relationship with God. And so we ask God this, very simply put, that God give us the love that we need. It's a very simple request from God. In the first letter of John, we do also hear this: in this is love, not that we have loved God, but that He first loved us. So John does have the priorities straight, that we are to receive the love of God first, and then, in thanksgiving, love God back and love neighbor as self. So as we receive perfect love in His body, blood, soul, and divinity here in this Eucharist, Jesus, let us say yes to being perfected by what we receive, and then allowing God's perfect love to cast out any fear from us and to help us to love our neighbor as ourselves.